So, if you see my last video talking about a random batch of Skylanders, most of you probably know that I now have access to literally every Skylander ever created, and one of the first Skylanders I made as an NFC card was Spotlight, but afterwards I would decide to wipe that card and instead print Sunscraper Spyro on it. And since I wanted to fit with the theme of the level, I then decided to change the Spire out with Nightlight, and after playing through most of the level with him, I decided that it would be a good time to bring back an old series of mine to discuss him, since after playing a few more levels with him, I had a couple of thoughts about him, both positive and negative. Now, before I fully hop into things, I just need to point out that I haven't been playing Nightlight as long as I have with Star Strike, so a lot of this may be pretty surface level outside of some of the deeper details. I will also be talking about how he works in Skylander Superchargers as well, because oh my god, I have never seen a Skylander get this radically altered when they change games, and I'm pretty sure the last time I ever saw something of this caliber happen was with Wind Up in Trap Team. So with that said and done, that's what we are going to do today. We're going to talk about Nightlight and how he stacks up as a Trapmaster. So let's get going.
See the light.
Nightlight, alongside Spotlight, was one of the first Skylanders of the, at the time, new light element from Skylanders Trap Team. Originally, he was packaged in the light element expansion pack, but shortly after, he was available as his own figure. On the resale market, however, he's somewhat fairly priced from what I can tell, and he goes from 25 to 70 bucks, but the pricier versions of him are usually sealed and untouched, so if you really want him, it's worth the money in my eyes. But before I get lost in the economics of it all, let's take a quick look into him. A level 1 unupgraded Nightlight starts out with 430 health points, his primary attack, Traptanium Scimitar, and his secondary attack, Prismatic Pounce. Traptanium Scimitar is a simple swing attack that does a moderate amount of damage, while his secondary causes him to launch forward and slash his sword down, which not only deals damage to the enemies in front of him, but creates an aura field that increases the strength of his primary, with the caveat that he has to be within the field for it to work. He's also able to fly for some reason if you double tap the jump button, and he can still attack while doing this, but it's more of an inconvenience than anything. It's the flight mechanics of a dragon on a larger melee character, and it absolutely sucks to use in a fight. But it's really fun to do when you're doing literally anything else. The first of his basic upgrades is Hollowed Ground, which makes enemies within the aura field he creates with his secondary attack move slower and do less damage to you if they manage to get a hit in. His second basic upgrade, Light Up, unlocks his third attack, which allows him to create a circle of light that you have to hold, and once you release it, it will not only levitate but damage anything nearby. But from my experience, it's pretty difficult to use because instead of being able to move it around, you have to aim Nightlight in the direction you want to fire off the attack, since it only goes straight and it's pretty hard to turn. And from my experience at least, it's pretty damn finicky. And for the final two upgrades, they are your typical buff type upgrades. Lasting Light increasing the duration of your aura fields, and Sharper Scimitar increasing the damage of your primary. So with that said and done, let's get into his two paths. Now the first path, Scimitar Slasher, focuses on his Scimitar, while his secondary path, Luminary of Light, focuses on his aura field, and since I have more experience with the first, we'll go over that one first. The first upgrade, Ascending Strike, knocks enemies into the air. His second upgrade, Speed of Light, allows him to teleport to the position of his third attack as it's traveling across the floor, but you have to continue holding your third attack and press your secondary at the same time. In his final upgrade, Spinning Slash, you can either hold your first or secondary attack button to charge up a 360 spin attack that does a moderate amount of damage. Now, I'm going to be as honest as possible and tell you that you probably shouldn't pick this upgrade path because it's just way worse in my opinion. Speed of Light I can tolerate, I don't have to use that. Spinning Slash, it's a little annoying and makes pulling off combos a little harder, but I can also tolerate that. Ascending Strike? What the hell? There's a lot of stuff I could say about this one attack alone, and I'll get more into it when it comes to how he performs in Superchargers because the issues there are more prominent. Anyways, the upgrades in his second path are Radiant Radius, which increases the area Prismatic Pounce damages enemies, and increases its size just to a crazy diameter, Illumination Detonation, which causes the light auras to explode instead of just disappearing, and finally, Flash Dash. Flash Dash is strangely hard to explain, but if you press the secondary attack button while you're in the middle of performing Prismatic Pounce, you can press the button again to make yourself invisible and invulnerable until the attack is finished. And finally, his Soul Gem upgrade, Brilliant Blade, upgrades the Scimitar and allows it to do its maximum amount of damage. But with that said and done, let's talk about how he operates in these games. Now, when it comes to Nightlight and Skylander's trap team, he is an extremely good Skylander in my eyes. Well, outside of that one path that kinda just ruins him, and the new gameplay mechanics via his aura field feels surprisingly fresh and interesting. There's a reason why I played with him for most of the DLCs, it's just because he is that good and that fun, and even though there is some micromanagement to it, you don't really need the aura fields to be successful. But as most of you probably know at this point, Skylanders usually undergo a myriad of, changes when it comes to their appearances in games after them. In some special cases, like Star Strike, Skylanders can get lucky and actually end up getting stronger whenever they show up in other games. But in most cases, they either stay the same or get nerfed to hell. Nightlight is nowhere near lucky in the slightest. Like I said in the intro, I have never seen a Skylander get this bodied when being played in a Skylanders game after their own. The reason why I love playing Nightlight and Trap Team to the point that I basically mained him since I got my NFC cards is because of how smooth he felt in that game. Instead of a lot of other close-range Skylanders where they kind of stop and pause for a second before swinging again, he feels a lot more like a faster and more fun Chop Chop in my eyes, at least when it comes to his primary. So with all of that said, can somebody please tell me why his attacks stagger in Skylanders Superchargers? Instead of the smooth, fluid movements that Nightlight had in Trap Team, they now feel super janky and unfun because instead of walking and swinging at the same time, he now lunges forward as he attacks, and if he ends up hitting something, he will stagger and slow down there as well. But it's not just that either. This is where we go back to Scimitar Slasher in its Ascending Strike upgrade, because in Superchargers, it utterly breaks the flow of combat as Nightlight ends up knocking enemies so high into the air that you sometimes have to wait for them to fall back down. Now, this wouldn't be a problem if this was a one-time thing, but because it's your primary attack, it will happen to every enemy that can be knocked away all the time, every time. You can't just spam the jump button to get out of the way of an incoming attack or jump over it, like many are accustomed to doing because of other close-range Skylanders, since all that will do is make you fly. And since there's a small animation for it, if you were intending to jump over an attack to get out of the way or hop over it and just spam the A button, you are going to take that hit that you wanted to dodge. And unlike the characters that he shares his flight mechanic with, he isn't small, so it's pretty easy to take a hit that you didn't want to take. This also gets really annoying when it comes to attacks you can jump over, since once again, he's much bigger than most and it's really easy to mistime your jumps. But to be honest, this criticism can land more in the area of me just having a skill issue. So with all my thoughts laid out, what is my final judgment? When it comes to his home turf, Nightlight is a great close-range Skylander with a spectacular mechanic to boot, only having a few minor problems and a pretty bad upgrade tree. When it comes to the away games, however, mainly Superchargers, it not only introduces problems that didn't need to exist, but it also amplifies the small problems that already exist. If I had to rank him, he would get an 8.5 out of 10 in Trap Team, but when it comes to the other games, he's somewhere around 6 out of 10. But with that said and done, I'd like to thank you all for watching. Like always, hit the subscribe button if you enjoy content like this, share this around so I can grow the channel, check out Return to Skylands, its Discord, and the link to the lore playlist in the description below, and I will see you all in the next one.